are on the screen. Went through my disappointments, strife and discontent. I can't still care on the Lord. No matter what obsession, pain, deep depression, I'm standing on that solid rock. I'm standing on the rock of ages, safe from all the storm that rages. I'm from Satan's wages, standing on that solid rock. Even though he's gone now, I don't feel alone now. We've come to gain the Spirit of the Lord. Now his hand to guide me from the temptation hide me. I'm standing on that solid rock. I'm standing on the rock of ages, safe from all the storm that rages. I'm from Satan's wages, standing on that solid rock. Now I'm pressing onward, each step leads me homeward. I'm trusting in the same day by day. And close is our relation, firm is its foundation. So on the solid rock I'll stay. I'm standing on the rock of ages, safe from all the storm that rages. Not from Satan's wages. I'm standing on that solid rock. Come bless the Lord, all the servants of the Lord, who stand by night in the house of the Lord. Lift up your hands in His holy place and bless the Lord. Come bless the Lord. Come bless the Lord. All the servants of the Lord who stand by night in the house of the Lord. Lift up Ain't that right? Here's our special we're going to do. We're going to do the lighthouse this morning. It's a lighthouse on a hillside that overlooks my sea. When I'm tossed, he sends the light out, light that I might see, and the light that shines through darkness now will safely lead me home. If it wasn't for the lighthouse, this ship would sail no more. And I thank God for the lighthouse. I owe my life to Him. King Jesus is the lighthouse on the rocks of sin. He has shone His light around me, and I see. It wasn't for the lighthouse, then where would this ship be? Everybody that lives around us says tear that lighthouse down. You know the big ships don't sail this way anymore. What's the use in standing around? All my mind goes back that stormy night. Just to kind of think what I saw the light of that old lighthouse that still stands up there on the hill. And I thank God for the lighthouse. I owe my life to Him. King Jesus is the lighthouse on the rocks of sin. He has shone sing. If it wasn't for the lighthouse, then where would this ship be? If it wasn't for the lighthouse, tell me where would this ship be?
Good job. All right, everybody still doing good? Good. Before we get too far into it, we had our annual Labor Day open yesterday. We want to thank everybody that helped make that deal possible. That's a long day, and some of you were there weeks and months in preparation beforehand, and there all day yesterday. But it went off like it always does. It's team open. There's going to be some whining and crying there. But team ropers need Jesus too. So that's why we do it. It's a great day, and we appreciate everybody's help in making that happen, because it takes a lot of hands to make that deal go. If it's your first time here, I always start off with something funny, and today's joke is I don't know, it's about an old farmer, and he owned a big piece of land, and he ran some cows on there, and then he had one bull on it, and it was his main, it was his only mode of operation, because when you put bull in the cows, you have calves, and that's how you make money. Those of you that aren't farmers, you have a brief lesson. Ranchers, you now know. So, he's got one bull, and the only thing that happens, as it tends to do, is his bull comes up missing, but there's only one. Can I start over? There's a farmer. He's got one bull, a train track runs through the middle of his property. Bull's not in any other neighbor's pasture, so the only thing he can think is that the people on the train stole his bull. So he goes and he goes to the train people and he tells them, hey, your train had to steal my bull. My bull's been missing. None of my neighbors have seen my bull, and that's the only way I have to make a living. And so we need to figure this out. And they said, well, no, we're not responsible. And so they're going to go they want to go to court. And so the old farmer shows up at court, and this hotshot lawyer corners him beforehand, and all the farmer wanted was enough money to replace the bull. And this old hotshot lawyer corners him and just giving him the what for, reading him up one side down the other, how he's got this case won, and this farmer, you old farmer, you ain't got a lawyer, you don't have a chance. And this guy representing the railroad said, I'll tell you what, we'll settle out of court right now for half the value of the bull. So the farmer, he agrees, and they go in and they tell the judge, we've settled out of court. And as they're making their way out, the old lawyer, he can't resist, kind of jabbed the old farmer, the country boy he pulled one over on. And he says, you know what, man? I didn't have anybody to put on the stand. I didn't have a chance of winning that case if we went to court. And I got to you today. And he was feeling real good. And that farmer said, well, you know what? I thought my chances were pretty slim of winning that case too, because that old bull showed back up this morning. So come out money ahead. I butchered that joke, and it took way too long to tell it. I'm sorry, it's been a long week. It's been a long week. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Lord, today as we open your Bible and we dive into your word, I just pray that you give me the words to speak, Lord, that it wouldn't be my own opinion on things. But God, I just pray that as we continue in the life of Joseph, we would learn from his faithfulness to you through hard times. And then, Lord, as we get in today, he makes his first little stumble. And God, we just ask that for those out there that have stumbled today, may you speak to their heart and remind them that there's no stumble that can separate us from you if we truly put our faith and trust in you. Lord, we just ask all this in Jesus' name. Be with us today and help us to hear from you. Fill this place with your Holy Spirit. Amen. All right, if you got your Bible, you can be turning to Genesis chapter 39. We're going to finish up 39 and snake through all of 40 and get to 41 today. And I'm not going to read it to you and break it down. I think we're just going to go through it the first time and go through it together. So catch you up to speed on the life of Joseph. We're going through the life of Joseph. We see that he remains a man of integrity despite all of the failures. Joseph comes from a messed up family. He 2,000 years ago, they had messed up families too. And so now we have, so now we have Joseph living this life. He's hated by his brothers. His brothers make a plot to kill him. They end up not killing him. They sell him into slavery. He becomes a slave to Potiphar, the Egyptian captain of the bodyguard. So the king at the time, Pharaoh, this was his personal bodyguard, and Joseph was a servant to Potiphar, Pharaoh's bodyguard. He was such a good servant, and the Lord was with Joseph, that Joseph became in charge of all that was in Potiphar's house. Instead of sulling and sticking his bottom lip out and crossing his arms and sitting down and saying, you know what, I don't deserve this, I'm going to do whatever I have to do to get by, he remained faithful. And he remained a man of integrity. And he continued to remain faithful to the Lord, and the Lord blessed him for it. And he got put in charge of all that Pharaoh had, that Potiphar had. And Potiphar, Potiphar said that he didn't worry about anything except what he had to eat. When it came to the possessions in his house, out in his fields, Joseph was so trustworthy, he didn't concern himself with anything. Joseph handled all those things very well. And then we see that Potiphar's wife has a plot. It says that Joseph, a random interjection, that he was rugged and handsome in appearance, or handsome in form and appearance, right? And we discussed that if you ever write the book of Brandon, you can include that sentence and it won't hurt my feelings at all. That's a joke. Now you're right. So, handsome in form and appearance, and we see where Pharaoh's wife is blatantly honest and upfront with him and says, come lie with me. Not Pharaoh's wife, Potiphar's wife. And there's way too many P names in this deal. And so he stands there, and he gives her a list of reasons why he will not submit to her request of laying with her. She doesn't buy him dinner, take him to a movie. She just says, come lay with me. And he says, I cannot do that. I will not do that. Because, number one, my master has entrusted me with everything in his household, and nobody in this house is more powerful than I. Why then would I sin against Potiphar? And number two, why would I do this great evil and sin against my God? And so that was his first response. But the Bible goes on to say that day after day she approached him. Come lay with me. Come lay with me. Come lay with me. One day she had the scene set up. She sent every other male servant outside, had the lights dim, some soft music playing in the background. She set the scene. There's no denying why there was no other male servants in the house. She had it planned that day. Joseph came in, and just like every other day, she said, come lay with me, but this time she grabbed him by his garment. She was serious about it. And he did what we all have to do in times of trial. He turned and he ran as fast as he could away from it and left his cloak in her hand. And last week we learned that not only did he lose his coat of many colors that his father gave him and his brother stripped him of, he lost his cloak in Potiphar's wife's hand. And in our life, if we're going to honor God, we have to turn from sin and run as fast as we can from it into the arms of the loving Savior. And that is made a quote from Francis Chan's book, Crazy Love, that it's hard to stop and sin when you're running to God's arms all the time. If you're on a steady path, doing what God's called you to do, the only time you have to sin is if you stop and get distracted from that. And so we have to turn from sin and run into God's arms. And we pick up there today. We know that Potiphar had put him in jail, and that's where we're going to pick up in verse 21, Genesis chapter 39, verse 21. Joseph again has been in justice not only by his family, not only by his servant, and now by Potiphar's wife. We see that he is in prison. But Genesis 39:21 tells us, but the Lord was with Joseph and extended kindness to him and gave him favor in the sight of the chief jailer. The chief jailer committed to Joseph's charge all the prisoners and who were in the jail, so that whatever was done there, he was responsible for it. The chief jailer did not supervise anything under Joseph's charge, because the Lord was with him, and whatever he did, the Lord made prosper. Sound familiar? That's how he got to be in charge of Potiphar's house. The Lord was with him, and everything he touched, the Lord blessed. And so now he gets thrown into jail, another place he doesn't deserve to be, but he's there, and the Lord's with him. And it says that he is put in charge of every prisoner in the jail. And then we skip down to 40, and it says, "Then it came about after these things, the cupbearer and the baker for the king of Egypt offended their lord, the king of Egypt. Pharaoh was furious with his two officials, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker." So we transition, Joseph's in jail, and we start chapter 40, and it says, "After those things had happened, Joseph is in charge in the jail. The cupbearer and the baker for the king offended the king." If anybody remember the study of Nehemiah, we went through the entire book of Nehemiah, and Nehemiah was cupbearer to his king, and the cupbearer's job is to be the wine taster, which is a pretty good job. You get to drink lots of good wine because it's the king's wine until you get that one bad batch that's meant for the king. Then your job all of a sudden wasn't really worth the risk. But that was his main job, was to make sure the king was safe. And if there was anything poisonous that somebody was trying to give to the king, it would go through his body first. And so he was with the king everywhere like Nehemiah was with his. And this cupbearer, well, a cupbearer to a king would have a close relationship. I mean, everywhere he went, he didn't take a drink without the cupbearer first trying. And the cupbearer overseeing what was given to him. And so now, so now we have the cupbearer and then the baker. And the baker was also somebody, because you couldn't just have any old baker that would take a bribe from an outside person to try to kill the king. So the baker also had the chief baker had to be in charge of all that there was for the kingdom. And so we don't know exactly what happened, but we know that they hacked Pharaoh off. I don't know if the baker made the chili too hot and the cupbearer didn't inform him, and so he just got mad at both of them and threw them in jail. Because if it had been a major offense, he'd have just killed them. Okay? But we see that because one's a cupbearer, one's the baker, and their roles kind of intertwine, whatever happened probably happened to both of them together. Whether they were messing around on the job, not paying attention, we don't know. All we know is they end up in the same jail that Joseph's at. Does Joseph deserve to be in this jail? Did he deserve to be sold into slavery by his brothers? Did he deserve to be hated by his brothers? No, he's not deserved anything to be where he's at, but yet he remains a man of integrity, continues to serve the Lord, and we have these two men, and they are placed in his jail. And I'm not going to read verses 3 through 5, but they tell us that these two men had dreams, and these dreams bothered them, and each dream was separate and had its own meaning. And we'll skip down to verse 6, and it says, "When Joseph came to them in the morning, these two men, and observed them, behold, they were dejected." You ever come across somebody and you can just tell something's wrong, right? You don't have to be a psychologist to know when people are hurting, when their spirits are down, when things are going wrong in their life, right? And if we're going to be like Joseph and remain men and women of integrity and impact the lost world for Jesus Christ, in spite of all that we have going on, all the injustice that is done to us, Joseph here looks at his fellow man and wants to encourage them. And he sees that they are dejected. And do you take the time to notice those around you like that? Or are you so busy with your life that you won't even notice the dejected people? Because I can promise you, even in a small community that we live in and abroad, people go through things that you could never fathom. And I see them and I deal with them and my heart breaks. When those people are dejected, you don't know what one encouraging word or you noticing the countenance on their face and saying, "Man, are you okay?" You won't know the impact it has on them. But Joseph, in spite of all the wrong that he had, he still cared about others. These were men in the jail that he had been placed in charge of. And he says, "Are you okay?" And verse 7 says, he asked Pharaoh's officials who were with him in confinement in his master's house, "Why are your faces sad today?" Hey man, what's going on? Why are you sad? Verse 8 says, "Then they said to him, 'We have had a dream and there's no one to interpret it.'" Joseph's response is, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell your dreams to me." They don't know that Joseph is in the place that he is because of the dreams he had and the hatred it produced by his brothers. Joseph had a dream when he was 17 years old that his whole family would bow down to him. He had another dream, same interpretation, and you know what happened? His family didn't like it when he told them, "I've had a dream, and all of you are going to bow down to me." When he walked up on his brothers in the field that day, when they made a plot to kill him, they said, "Here comes the dreamer," which literally means the one who interprets dreams. And as we see, they're making fun of him, but they don't know how right they are. And today we're figuring out how good Joseph is with dreams. He says, "Dreams belong to God. Tell them to me. Why are your faces sad? What's going on in your life?" Can we show that concern for others at times? Should we? Y'all must have had a late night last night. Or y'all are really soaking this in. He says, "What's going on?" So verses 9 through 13, we get the first dream. So the chief cupbearer told his dream to Joseph and said to him, "In my dream, behold, there was a vine in front of me, and on the vine were 3 branches, and it was budding. Its blossoms came out, and its clusters produced ripe grapes. Now Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, so I took the grapes and squeezed them into Pharaoh's cup and put the cup in Pharaoh's hand." Verse 12, Joseph interprets that dream, and he says to him, "This is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are 3 days. Within 3 more days, Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your office, and you will put Pharaoh's cup into his hand according to your former custom when you were his cupbearer." Here's your dream, here's the interpretation. That's a pretty good interpretation. Right? If you're the cupbearer, that's what you want to hear. I'm going back to work. I'm going to get out of jail here. I'm going to go back to work for the king. I will go back to doing what I was doing. And we'll skip verses 14 and 15, hit them at the end. We'll get to the second dream. Verse 16, we'll just read the first half of this. When the chief baker saw that he had interpreted favorably. They were kind of leery about these dreams. Remember, they felt dejected by these dreams, and they had a sad countenance on their face. Joseph shows concern for their life, and he interprets the first dream, and here we have the baker, and he sees, all right, his dream meant that he's getting restored. I like that. That's good. I want to know what my dream means now. He's probably going to wish he didn't ask. The second half says, he said to Joseph, "I also saw a dream, and behold, there were 3 baskets of white bread on my head. And in the top basket there were some of all sorts of baked food for Pharaoh. And the birds were eating them out of the basket on my head." Verse 18, then Joseph answered and said, "This is the interpretation. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Within 3 more days Pharaoh will lift up your head from you and hang you in a tree, and the birds will eat your flesh off of you." Probably not the response the baker's looking for. He's going, WTH, what the heck? Would be his Facebook post. How come the cupbearer, he has a dream, and he's going back to work, and now I'm going to be hanged in 3 days with the birds to eat my flesh. And now these men were men of power. Joseph had been put in charge of all that the jail had, but they were men of power. And so any of you, when dealing with somebody, and you see the countenance on their face, and you see the dejection that's on their face, you ask them what's going on in their life, and at the end of the story, you go, maybe I shouldn't have asked. You go, oh man, that's more than the can of worms I wanted to open. But then, because you now know the story and they are coming to you, a faithful friend, for advice, you are left with the decision. Do I tell them what's right? Do I tell them what's true? Or do I tell them what they want to hear so they're not mad at me? And as men and women who put their faith and trust in an all-knowing God, and we'll touch on this again, God will always honor what's right, doing what's easy. And for Joseph to stand there before his brother and foretell his death had to be difficult for him. And as a pastor, people come to me and they want answers and they want their ears tickled with something. But when it comes to me standing before the Lord and God asking me, why did you tell them this when you knew that wasn't the case? Why didn't you just tell them the truth like I told you to do? We will stand before the Lord and give an account for every action. And what we see here is Joseph is more concerned about his relationship with God than he is about making friends. And in the Christian life, we don't need to have brutal honesty that just kills people, but we owe people the respect of being honest with them. We are not called to sugarcoat the truth. And that's what Joseph did. He stood in a tight spot, and he said, you know what? This is what this means. Whether you want to hear it or not, that's where it's at. And people come to me broken, people come to me with mistakes, and I tell them, you know what? You may not like what I've got to say, but I'm going to tell you the truth. And I can promise you that with the mistake you made, this ain't going to be an easy road to hoe to get out of it. But God is faithful, and He will help us through it. He never leaves us, and He never forsakes us. Chase that rabbit and move on. Joseph had the hard job of interpreting that dream, and we see in verses 20 through 22, thus it came about on the third day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast for all his servants, and he lifted up the head of his chief cupbearer and the head of his chief baker among his servants. He restored the chief cupbearer to his office, and he put the cup into Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker just as Joseph had interpreted. And so now we'll go back to verses 14 and 15 as we're studying the life of Joseph. And this is where true application comes in for you and me today. Verse 14 and 15, after he interpreted the first dream for the cupbearer, the favorable dream, right? He had just told this guy the truth and said, you will be restored. Verse 14 says that Joseph told this cupbearer, only keep me in your mind when it goes well with you. And please do me a kindness by mentioning me to Pharaoh and get me out of this house. For I was in fact kidnapped from the land of the Hebrews, and even here I had done nothing that should have put me into the dungeon. He makes a plea with the cupbearer. Remember the cupbearer's dream? We're all tracking. You just nod your head like we're tracking. We're all on the same journey together. He's going to restore him. Cupbearer is close to the king, right? We're all on track. Cupbearer is very close to the king. Cupbearer messes up, king dies. They're tight. They're buddies. Until the cupbearer gets the wrong cup, and then he's got a new buddy. Some of your minds aren't going that fast. Now we're picking up. Here we go. We see Joseph make his first mistake. Up to this point, he's remained a man of integrity. He's not Jesus Christ. He does have faults, and we see his first fault right here. He takes his mind and his focus off of God, and he puts it in a human's hands. He puts his fate into human hands, and he tells this cupbearer, hey buddy, like everybody in jail does, I don't belong to you. I'm innocent. I didn't do it. We've heard that story, right? You've seen it in the movies. Whether Joseph is really innocent or not, this is something that the cupbearer probably heard on a regular basis as he was in prison. And he says, hey, you have favor with the king. And because of the relationship, the cupbearer could have done a little name dropping and said, hey, I met a guy in prison that we should probably let go. Joseph says, hey, don't forget me when you get out. Help me out. Could you hook a brother up? Could you please help me? And that's his mistake. That's his mistake. Because as we see in verses 23 that end this in the first half of verse 1, yet the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgot him. Now it happened at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh had a dream. We're going to see next week that it took 2 years for that cupbearer to remember Joseph. When people in times of trial become disillusioned and lose focus, it changes our true focus. Keep track. if Jesus Christ is all that he said he was, and he went through all that he did on the cross for the punishment of our sin, and in that, God promises that we can have fellowship with him if we put our faith and trust in what Christ did on the cross. We now have a relationship with a loving, giving God, and now that God calls us to worship him. That's why we were designed. We were made to worship God. The gospel is not about us and how much God loved us. The gospel is about God creating us to worship him. And when we truly worship him, we are not promised anything else in this life other than knowing God. And anything else that you have is a gift from God that you take for granted on a daily basis. Okay? When we become disillusioned is when we get soaked up in our lives and we look around and we think we deserve everything that God has blessed us with. And when people do us wrong, we begin to become disillusioned and we begin to take our minds off of the one true God, and we become living a self-centered gospel. That hurts, because I live in the midst of that. And when you become disillusioned, your heart gets hardened towards people. Things that you know you shouldn't do, you dive off into. And we lose focus of why we're really here. That is the cause of disillusionment, is losing focus. But there is a cure. And that is getting refocused. Joseph, we'll see, he'll get refocused. He put his faith and trust back in God. He put it in man, and you'll see where it got him 2 years later. Nothing. 2 more years in jail. What is the cure for disillusionment? It is knowing that no matter what you go through in this life, Christ is enough. No matter where you go, no matter what you think you deserve, no matter what life you have, what you don't have, how the world treats you, God is enough. That is the only thing we are promised in this life. And I want you to know you can leave here today having hope in that one fact. And if we have anything more than that, God has richly blessed you. Because you are not promised anything other than an all-knowing God who wants a relationship with you and an opportunity to worship him. Whether your family disowns you like Joseph's did, whether they hate you, whether they don't, that is no place to think that you deserve anything more than what God has for you.
Come on.
And I'm not yelling at you, but I've had a bad week. And I saw a man think that his family meant more to him than what his God meant. And he made a decision to take his own life, and shame on him for thinking that his family was worth more than God. God is all we need, and if you ever think different, come see me. He is all we need through the deepest, darkest despair, no matter what we go through. He is it. No matter what persecution I face, no matter what people do, the injustice that happened to me, whether my wife hates me, God is enough. And my wife doesn't hate me, just throwing that out there. But I want you to know that in your deepest, darkest pits of despair, you can cling to the Savior. And that is the hope that we have. We can learn from Joseph's mistake, and we can realize that when we put our faith and trust in human hands, we will be disappointed. And that's Joseph's first misstep we saw today. He took his eyes off of God and he put it in a man's hand. And he got let down. And I hope you leave here today not discouraged, but encouraged, knowing that you have a God that's enough. Because in all that we go through, he is. And it's the only thing we're promised in this life. Until we're called to our home. And I'm sorry that you reaped the harsh repercussions of what I lived through this week. But it was encouragement that I needed. It's the only hope I have. Is God's enough. And I want you to know that today he can be enough for you. No matter where you're going, no matter what you're going through. Let's pray. Father God, I come to you now and I just ask that let hunt you down today, God. I pray that people got the message in Joseph's life. And what happens when we become disillusioned, when we take our focus off of you, it begins a downward spiral where we begin to live a life that's pleasing to ourselves and not to you. But God, in the midst of all the chaos, in the midst of everything the world can throw at us, if we truly focus on you, that is the only cure for the disillusionment that happens in our life. Lord, I thank you for the promise of your word that in spite of my faults, in spite of my failures, you want me to worship you. That is why I was created. You sent your Son to die so that I can have a relationship with you. And God, in this life, I'll not promise anything more than that. And forgive me for ever taking my focus off of that. Father, that's a different gospel than some of these people have heard. But it's the gospel of the Bible. It's the gospel of truth. And God, I pray that we would live as though you were enough and everything else we have is a blessing, that we would live a fully devoted life to you. Lord, I pray that if there's anybody out there that's in one of those pits, like Joseph, it's in the deepest part of despair, and they're fixing to take their eyes off of you, and they're putting their faith and trust in man, and it's getting them nowhere, God, I pray that they return to you. Lord, if there's anybody out there who doesn't know you, who doesn't know the peace and comfort that comes with having a relationship with you, God, I pray that you draw to you. Lord, help us to be like Joseph, and when we see a countenance on our brother's face that is not normal to their character, that we would take compassion on them and ask, why are you this way? What's going on in your life? God, that we would do what the gospel calls us to do, and that's to reach the lost world. Help us to be that light. Give us the strength and courage to do that, God. And it's all in Jesus Christ's precious name. Amen. If you're here today and you have questions,